Hello and welcome to another episode of Two Tickets Please. I'm your host, Josiah Wampfler. On this episode, I'll dive into director Celine Song's latest film, Materialists. Coming off her Academy Award-nominated debut, Past Lives, the expectations are high. Does it live up to them? Then I'll highlight the underseen baseball comedy Eephus, director Carson Lund's debut, about two local teams playing their final game on their beloved field. I'll talk about what made the comedy surprisingly touching. Finally, I'll wrap up with a review of director Ryan Coogler's spring hit Sinners, a 1930s vampire film with a lot on its mind. The highest-grossing original film in years, what made the film so special for audiences? All that is ahead on this episode of Two Tickets Please. So let's begin with Materialists. They say write what you know, and writer and director Celine Song has begun her film career doing just that. In 2023, she broke onto the scene with the excellent Past Lives, a deeply personal story about a woman's childhood sweetheart re-entering her life long after she had settled down with another man, forcing her to grapple with the life she had chosen. With the release of her sophomore feature, Materialists, Song has once again returned to a love triangle. A woman forced to reckon with decisions she's made in her love life, and New York City, while also exploring the little-known world of professional matchmaking, an industry she once worked in herself. It is often interesting to see broader themes emerge in a director's work, and much of what I liked about Materialists is Song's deepening discussion of why we choose the relationships that we do. Yet for as much as I've enjoyed thinking about those themes, I must admit that, while there are moments of brilliance akin to Past Lives, the magic Song found in that film is not here. In 2023, Song made audiences fall in love with Nora, Haesung, and Arthur. She had us on the edge of our seats just waiting to see where her story would go. But in Materialists, it's hard to remember her characters' names, or even describe who they are. Lucy is one of those characters. Played by Dakota Johnson, she is a failed actor turned successful matchmaker living in New York City. Having just gotten her 9th client to the altar as we begin the film, the ultimate achievement in the matchmaking business. It is at this wedding where Song's triangle emerges. Harry, the brother of the groom, played by Pedro Pascal, takes an immediate interest in her. A ridiculously wealthy private equity investor, he feigns interest in her matchmaking services, but seems dead set on matching with her. Plus, she runs into her old flame, John, a struggling stage actor played by Chris Evans, who happens to be working as a caterer. The central tension of the film is whether Lucy will choose the financial security of Harry or choose the love she still holds for John, despite her materialistic misgivings about him. Unfortunately, the tension around that choice is seriously lacking. Marketed as a romantic comedy, Materialists finds itself in a gray area, where it is probably not humorous enough to fit that billing, while also leaning into nearly all the tropes we expect from the genre. While Song is a compelling enough writer to work in plenty of depth to chew on in the margins of this story, she rarely strays from convention, leading to a somewhat underwhelming ending that has been telegraphed from the beginning. At the same time, Song's naturalistic style clashes with such a conventional approach. Audiences primed for a breezy romantic fare may be put off by a film that leans into awkward silences, slower pacing, and dialogue that is purposely designed to feel a bit stilted at times. The goal here is to lend real humanity to her characters and their interactions, something that worked quite well in Past Lives, but here amongst such overwhelmingly conventional choices and underwritten characters, it clashes too often. While there is plenty to enjoy in their performances, there is clearly a chemistry problem with our central trio that is only exacerbated by their thin characterization, undercutting the emotion that is vital to make Materialists truly sing. Lucy's philosophy on relationships is almost completely analytical, influenced by her experience as a matchmaker. Marriage is a business contract, as she says, so she's out to check boxes. Height, hairline, shared taste, and income level, amongst others. While Song's thematic exploration of this philosophy and the limits of it is one of the best things about the film, in building her characters, she doesn't give us much more than these superficial bullet points. John gets the most characterization. We see him on stage, we experience his living situation, and we even get a sense of his political worldview. But we don't really see what commonalities he and Lucy share that is supposedly the basis of their chemistry. Our glimpse into Harry's life is even more superficial, though purposely so. All we ever learn about him is his penchant for fine dining, his job, his swanky apartment, and the lengths he's gone to try to make himself the perfect mate. But Lucy is an unforgivably thin character. We certainly explore her outlook on love and relationships and see her work life, but I found it odd that we never see her apartment and know very little about her hobbies and interests. All of this, as well as the valid question of whether Dakota Johnson was the best choice for this role, leads to a chemistry problem. In the case of her pairing with Pascal's Harry, that is the point, and it actually produces one of the film's best scenes. In a nearly unbroken single shot, the two of them in profile against the backdrop of an expensive restaurant, Lucy and Harry negotiate their business contract. Subverting the typically emotional climax that comes when two people decide to enter into a relationship, they coldly list off all the reasons for and against their pairing. As the camera slowly pushes in, the look on Lucy's face is not one of love, but of acceptance. She's settling for the materialistic grandeur of a life with Harry. But even though Materialists contains one of the best performances I've seen from Chris Evans in a while, he and Johnson simply do not have the chemistry required to land their romance. Song does her best to make it possible to root for their pairing, but when they share a romantic scene later in the film, I was left a bit cold. The film was telling me, at times quite loudly, that they share a deep emotional connection Harry can't hope to match, but I just couldn't feel it. Still, while I found Materialists lacking when it came to emotional impact and character development, it worked quite well for me as a thematic piece. Lucy's calculated view of relationships, while foreign to me, was fascinating to dig into. While Song ultimately rejects the idea that material concerns should be the top priority in relationships, you see why Lucy may feel that way, and why someone like John may need to think about those things a bit more. Lucy's worldview is obviously somewhat informed by her gender and the patriarchal expectations we've put on institutions like marriage as a way to climb the social and economic ladder. As a woman from a working-class background making $80,000 a year in the most expensive city in the country, you see why Lucy would be concerned about John being broke. But while a realistic outlook is wise, one can start to value these non-negotiable income levels and social signifiers to the detriment of their own humanity. For Lucy, that is reflected both in the way she is compelled to resign herself to a relationship without chemistry, and in the way she sees her clients not as humans, but checkboxes to be filled. It is in the film's exploration of the matchmaking industry where you can feel Song letting off some steam about her time working as a matchmaker. But it also speaks to broader critiques of modern dating culture in general. Online dating and apps like Tinder and the like have similarly commodified the whole experience of dating, encouraging us to sift through potential mates like job applicants, seeing who may check all of our superficial boxes. Yet even in Song's probing of Lucy's worldview, which astutely shows how she has come to view love and relationships in capitalistic and materialistic terms, she can't help but reach for convention. When one of her clients ends up in a dangerous situation on her account, instead of going deeper into a client's perspective on this industry, Song unfortunately uses it as a character-building moment for Lucy. Given the serious subject involved, it feels even more fraught when Song offers Lucy an unrealistic redemption arc that is paired with the romantic climax of the whole film. So while I have truly enjoyed the time I've spent thinking about the various themes running through Materialists, and ultimately recommend it as a worthwhile time at the theater, your mileage may vary. Where I found it hard to connect with emotionally, I have seen plenty of others respond more strongly. I think all of that really depends on whether you buy the chemistry between Song's leads. There are times when you must admit when a film just isn't fully in your wheelhouse, and this may be one of those times. Nevertheless, Materialists has some moments of true brilliance that left me with enough to be satisfied with. So I'm giving the film 3.5 out of 5 stars. It is currently out in theaters. My history with baseball is not very long. I played for several years when I was in elementary school, but was never very good. I was happy to spend time with my friends in the dugout and had fun being coached by my dad, but a few too many times getting hit made me far too timid at the plate, so I stopped. Beyond that, I've gone to a few games and watched some deep dive videos on some MLB stories, shout out John Boys and the history of the Seattle Mariners. So when I say that Eephus, the debut feature from director Carson Lund, gave me a newfound love for the sport, that should tell you what a magical little film it is. Eephus is a sneakily profound comedy about the final game that will be played on a small-town baseball field in New England before a school is built on top of it. On a beautiful October Sunday, two local teams, the River Dogs and Adler's Paint, meet for one last time. Though the game starts in the morning, it will stretch into the cold, dark hours of the night, as the men try to finish what they've started and give their field the send-off it deserves. Eephus is a hangout film, much like baseball is a hangout sport. And with that hangout comes plenty of humor, as these ragtag teams, filled with young, old, fast, slow, fit, fat, drunk, sober, and all-around baseball-obsessed men come together one final time. They poke fun at teammates and opposing players alike, the River Dogs uniting at one point to yell out various foods as an Adler's Paint player, known to be dieting, is struggling at the plate. The outfielders deal with the boredom of the position in various ways, one of the men singing little songs to himself and wearing his glove as a hat. And in the dugout, the men consider what they'll do after all of this, whether that be hitting up a local bar for Sunday deals, or maybe even finally reading a book. All the while, the dugout radio adds additional humor as we hear from local businesses, like a local steakhouse owner who proclaims, "For 20 years, my family told me I make awesome steaks." Cool, man. Outside the fence, the onlookers add further comedy. There is a random boxer inexplicably practicing past the outfield, two skater bros perplexed by the rules of the game, a sweet old man who doesn't see the need for a new school when kids could just be selling hot dogs. There will always be hot dogs. And an obsessive statistician, diligently tracking the flow of the game and mumbling baseball quotes to himself. One of the players has even brought his children to see the old man play one last time. The son tells his sister,
"I went to one of my friend Edward's games. These guys aren't much better than them."
I haven't mentioned a main character this story is told through because Eephus doesn't trouble itself with such notions. No matter how subpar the action on the field may be, everyone is integral to this game. Whether that be the self-proclaimed team captains, the drunk pitcher, the rotund outfielder that can barely move around, the talented young men worthy of college scouting, the backup that never gets to play, or the kind statistician that loves the game too much to stay away, everyone is valued. It is perhaps why many of them seem so disturbed by the end of this pastime. Being a main character can be lonely and frightening. You have to prove your worth. Considering a life without this game, without these teams that gave their lives meaning, takes on existential stakes. One player even has a hilarious moment of clarity in the style of a Vietnam flashback thinking about it. Each of these oddballs has existed on this field as a valuable member of a team, a small part of a whole. Outside these fences, will they find value? One of the catchers, when talking to his pitcher near the end of the game, says that he may never catch again. The pitcher responds,
"Don't say that, man. You need to get back out there. Make the next pitcher feel safe. Make the world a better place."
I guess I do feel like your protector. That's nice.
But on Soldiers Field, as the leaves change around them on this brilliant autumn day, it seems time has stopped for a brief moment, or at least become confused. It is hard to place when Eephus is set, All the men drive older cars, there are no cell phones in sight, and they remark on how there is an old baseball game from 1972 playing on the radio. But that same radio plays music from various eras, including a modern rap song performed by a relatively unknown MC named Pleasure Pete. And the game itself. The players somehow manage to stretch 9 innings through the morning and late into the night, far past the point where they can even see anymore. People seem to drift in and out from the field, like it is an island in the middle of some mysterious ether. Like the field exists outside space and time. The title Eephus refers to a pitch that is an odd curveball, purposely designed to mess with the batter's timing. Backup pitcher Merritt Nettles, played by co-writer Nate Fisher, describes it as a pitch that seems to stop in midair.
You can tell when it's an Eephus. It stays in the air forever. You get bored watching it. I get bored. And the hitter does, so he tries to swing at it like normal. But it's already past him, or it waits till he's done swinging. The Eephus makes him lose track of time. It's pretty mean that way.
Backup Cooper Bassett responds, "I like that. It's kind of like baseball. I'm looking around waiting for something to happen, and poof, game's over." There is a ticking clock on the field itself. And for many of these men, this will spell an end to their time playing this game. But in this final game, in this last hurrah, the clock becomes confused. In one long day that stretches into the darkness of the night, when their breath reaches out in front of them like phantoms longing to cling to this sacred space, these sad bunch of misfits found a portal into a timeless zone. In their final at-bat upon this field that offered them camaraderie, valued them, and gave them so many memories, the great game of baseball allowed them to touch eternity. I'm giving Eephus 5 out of 5 stars. It is now available on VOD.
I'm gonna spend my money on something sweet and strong. Gonna move my body through the whole night long. Gonna sweat the way I've been longing.
It's always exciting when a director finds their actor, a talent they constantly return to because they know they can excel in any role they give them. Think Martin Scorsese and De Niro or DiCaprio, Spike Lee and Denzel Washington, Kelly Reichardt and Michelle Williams, or Quentin Tarantino and Samuel L. Jackson. In 2025, Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan have made a case that they may be one of our best working pairings with the release of their new film, Sinners. The two have been doing incredible work together since Coogler's first film, Fruitvale Station. Then they jump-started a new Rocky franchise with Creed, leading to Jordan's own directorial debut. When Coogler entered the MCU, he called on Jordan to portray one of the best villains in the entire Marvel universe. But Sinners takes things to a whole new level. Jordan playing 2 different roles as twins, and Coogler producing the first original film of his already impressive career. Sinners is a career highlight for both director and actor. Set in 1932 in the Mississippi Delta, Sinners follows Sammy, played by Miles Catton, a young blues guitarist and the son of a preacher who longs to chase his love for music. His twin cousins, known as Smoke and Stack, both played by Jordan, recruit him to perform at the grand opening of their new juke joint, a converted old sawmill seemingly bought with the plunder of their rumored adventures with Al Capone in Chicago. Meant to provide a place for the local black community to unwind, and perhaps make the twins some good money, these dreams soon come crashing down as they are visited by vampires, turning this grand opening into a harrowing night no one who escapes will ever forget. Sinners is a technical marvel in almost every way. Coogler was a great filmmaker already, but now he has entered the special IMAX master tier where fellow filmmakers Christopher Nolan, Jordan Peele, and Denis Villeneuve have recently taken up residence. Bringing his Wakanda Forever cinematographer Autumn Gerald Arkapaw aboard, he could not have picked a more capable person for the job. Becoming the first female DP to shoot on IMAX film, the images she and Coogler craft are breathtaking. High contrast with deep blacks that reach into the abyss, fitting for a vampire film, Coogler and Arkapaw also know precisely when to deploy their expanded IMAX frame for maximum effect. There is a seemingly simple shot toward the beginning of the film that really shows off their technical prowess. The twins are leaning against their car, Stack rolling a cigarette and Smoke checking his watch. As the camera pulls out and moves around them, Stack passes the cigarette to his brother and lights it for him. Jordan playing both roles, the shot required that they use a mechanized dolly that performed the same exact move take after take. But beyond the behind-the-scenes brilliance, it also shows what Coogler and Arkapaw understand about audience psychology. This is the first time we see these characters, both played by the same actor. To have us actually see them physically interacting in the first moments they are on screen distinguishes them as unique characters from then on. Coogler's casting throughout is impeccable. In his first role on the big screen, Miles Catton knocks it out of the park as Sammy. Delroy Lindo is equal parts hilarious and moving as Delta Slim, an old blues player they've brought along to play that night. Jack O'Connell is deliciously sinister as the big bad vampire Remick, and Haley Steinfeld gives her best performance in years as Stack's ex Mary, delivering some of the wildest lines in the whole film. But while Coogler brings all the genre fun to Sinners you would want out of a vampire flick, even trusting his audience to know rules like the creatures need to be invited in, what ultimately makes the film so special is the music. With a score composed by longtime collaborator Ludwig Göransson, and using a litany of blues standards, Irish folk songs, and several songs written for the film itself, Sinners is a feast for the ears. It is a musical, both in the sense that its characters sing many songs and in how central music is to the whole film. In some ways, you could say that Coogler made a film about the history of the blues by way of a From Dusk Till Dawn style vampire film. Sinners is a sonically transcendent experience, and the greatest example of that is the scene everyone is buzzing about, the scene that serves as the thesis for the entire film. With the party getting started at the juke joint, Sammy gets up on stage to show the audience what he's got. As he starts to sing, you immediately realize you are watching a true talent. But after the first verse, it cuts to a brief flashback, as Delta Slim tells him,
"Blues, it wasn't forced on us like that religion. No, sir. We brought this with us from home. It's magic what we do. It's sacred. It's big."
We cut back to Sammy playing amidst the crowd, and as the camera moves around the room, we start to see and hear the influences blues descended from, like African folk music, the genre it developed alongside, ragtime, and the legacy it will carry forward, rock and roll, funk, R&B, and hip-hop. We see the immense contribution black musicians have made to popular American culture. But Coogler also shows us how music is a beautiful cultural exchange. As the Chinese-American grocery store owners, Grace and Bo, head out onto the dance floor, they are flanked by a mesmerizing Chinese dancer. And later, Coogler will even explore the vampire Remick's musical heritage, with some stunning performances of traditional Irish folk tunes. This appreciation for the cultural melting pot of music also has a behind-the-scenes importance for Coogler. Ludwig Göransson's Swedish father is a blues guitarist whose love for the genre was sparked by seeing Black American blues players touring Europe when he was younger. That passion was instilled in Ludwig from an early age, and set him on a path that would one day lead him to the University of Southern California, where his collaboration with Coogler began. As Sammy sings, the people dance, the musical sounds of past and present converge, and the whole joint goes up in a blaze of fire, Coogler shows us the power of music to pierce the veil, to transcend space and time. He also recontextualizes one of the most famous legends in blues history. It is no coincidence Sinners is set in 1932 in the Mississippi Delta. Robert Johnson, one of the most influential blues guitarists in history, would start to play around the Delta during this time, recording his only 2 albums shortly thereafter, before his untimely death at 27 years old. Those albums were full of songs that would go on to become indelible blues classics, including Sweet Home Chicago.
Baby, don't you want to go?
The legend around Johnson grew after his passing, quickly turning supernatural. It was said that one fateful night in his youth, Johnson went down to the crossroads, where he met the devil. In exchange for his soul, the devil tuned his guitar, imbuing it with magic and giving Johnson mastery over the instrument. While Coogler does not reference Johnson in Sinners obliquely, through Sammy's song he flips the legend on its head. It is not the devil that bestowed this power upon Sammy, but he who is singing a siren song to the devil. As he belts out the final notes of the song, the vampire Remick emerges from the shadows with desire in his eyes. He wants that power for himself, and he's willing to take the souls of everyone inside this juke joint to get it. While Remick and the vampires certainly represent the white supremacist culture of the Jim Crow South, Coogler complicates this reading in fascinating ways as the film progresses. Remick's first victims are a white husband and wife who are members of the Ku Klux Klan, and they become his partners in ransacking the juke joint. Yet Remick himself is an Irish immigrant, no stranger to the evils of colonization. He even speaks the language of anti-racism, and those that he turns to his side do as well, promising a heaven on earth free from bigoted society. Like any devil worth his salt, he has a silver tongue, and his vision is tempting. But as we see all those Remick has killed dance and sing Rocky Road to Dublin, we see a homogenized culture ruled by Remick's whims. The colonized has become the colonizer. The oppressed has become the oppressor. There's so much more I could say about Sinners and the incredibly deep themes running through it. But I just want to end by marveling at what an incredibly entertaining film it is. Every single actor is perfectly cast. The costuming from Oscar winner Ruth E. Carter is magnificent, and I will never forget the awe-inspiring feeling of experiencing it in IMAX. Plus, Coogler thankfully understands that vampire films are supposed to be sexy, and doesn't shy away from getting crude with it. Sinners is a stunning achievement for all the creatives involved, and I hope awards bodies remember it when it comes time next year. I'm giving Sinners 5 out of 5 stars. It is available on VOD, but go see it in theaters if it's still playing near you. That'll do it for this episode of 2 Tickets Please. If you would like more written content from me, you can go to 2ticketsplease.substack.com. Thanks for watching.